What is the new premium service that people pay for? It's conviction, judgment, it's having an opinion, not loudness, not access, not information. If you're in real estate and you don't have an opinion, you're a commodity. And private listings network, oh yeah, it's the perfect test. Agents are going to either develop discernment or follow the herd. Welcome to Renovating Real Estate. I'm Sandy McMaster. Each week here we renovate the way real estate operators, real pros, think, decide, and execute. And we do that using the identity ops method because most agents and brokers, sadly, never operationalize what truly makes them different. And whether you love them or hate them, private listings networks are all the topic of the day, the topic du jour. And agents can't afford to be sheeps in the herd anymore. Let's talk about it. So last Saturday, showing property to clients, after we decided this was not going to be the property for them, we were not going to offer, we were left with a few extra moments. So of course, you utilize these very precious moments. And I said, hey, have you guys heard of any, articles or read anything or heard anything about private listings networks? And they both looked at me and they were like, no, what are you talking about? So we talked about it. Now, I've been with these clients for about, 4 months. And so the amount of articles or the amount of buzz around private listings networks, of course, has increased quite a bit since the most recent activity just inside the industry. So I felt the need to bring this up proactively, right? Of course, we want to get ahead of this. The last thing I would want them to feel is as if I had not informed them. I had not been their guide, right? I wasn't ahead of this. It would be the worst thing to me if they brought me the question. So, of course, I don't think I'm alone in that. And I'm not saying that that's some novel thing. A lot of you are probably doing that. But I wanted to highlight how that I was trying to bring up what's important and why they might care and apply it to their specific circumstances so that they were clear on my opinion, because in my estimation, that is what they are paying me for, right? The last thing we want is to have clients receive an article from Aunt Linda and they read it and then they spend days worrying like, well, how come I haven't heard about this? Am I missing something? Oh my gosh. And it just stirs up this worry. Well, of course we don't want our clients to live there, right? That's like, here's where that's really, really palpable example. You know how you call like you have an issue or you're trying to get something done, something has gone wrong. Great example. Let's say you're banking. Something is wrong with your banking and none of the pre-programmed responses are your issue. I mean, how much would you pay to bypass sitting in a phone tree queue or trying to come up with the perfect phrase like, describe why you're calling in a few words? Oh my God. And it's not impatience, right? That's having a nuanced approach to satisfy a customer's need. Like, how much would I pay to just get right through to a human working at my bank? Well, we're doing the same thing, except we're doing it at a much deeper level, much better level about kind of some really, really important decisions. And that's having a belief. That is not impatience. That's developing your own opinion and anticipating all the ways that's going to affect your client. And just Imagine this, like, think about how AI is going to become more prevalent. It gets cheaper, brokerages get bigger, information becomes more abundant, and services become automated. People are not paying for access, they're paying for understanding. And in real estate, understanding shows up as us having an opinion. Case in point. If you cannot clearly explain what you believe about a private listings network, how are you going to lead a client through something like a pricing conversation? If you don't have a stance, you don't have a strategy, you have a reaction. So here's the real question. What do you want to be known for in times of uncertainty, or when things are muddy, or when things are unclear? In my own mind, and what we do as service providers, I call that humanistic capitalism. It's not anti-profit. It's not anti-AI. I love tech and I like very much scaling operations. But here's what I refuse to do. I refuse to outsource the humanity of what we do. The humanness, keeping our humanness is now not only a premium service, but it is a discipline. The ability to actually hear what someone is actually asking, not just what they're saying, what's right below the surface. What do they actually care about? That is one of the most valuable skills in the workforce, not just in our industry, but across industries. And that's just only going to get more and more enhanced and blown up and highlighted as AI comes forward. Here's what I want you to hear. If you hear nothing else in this whole podcast, your clients hire you for your opinion. Clients don't hire you anymore because you can open doors. They're not hiring you for access. And P.S., brokerages, agents don't join your brokerage for book club. No, people hire you or affiliate with you for your opinion, what you stand for. So you should have an opinion, not a vibe, not a borrowed script, an earned stance, one that is backed up by what you do. What you believe, what you say, and what you do, they should all match up. And here's how the private listings network is really a good forcing function. Private listing networks are where you can see and hear herd mentality. Agents repeat what they've heard because honestly, it's safer than having a different opinion. I get it. I really do. It feels risky to have a contrarian opinion, especially if you have a differing opinion from your brokerage. It's not easy to stand alone sometimes. But the market has a way of punishing herd mentality. And so does the Department of Justice. Safety in numbers is not safe at all. That's not having a stance. That means you have no accountability. And here's a really important point. You have no differentiation. So let's talk about how to form conviction without becoming a crusader, because we don't need to do that. Here's what I'm going to give you, a 3-part framework. Really simple. Stance, signals, and system. let's use the private listings network as an example. So if you're riding in your car, just ask yourself these questions. What's your stance? What do you believe about private listing networks? Now, why do you believe that? What signals are in your process? Perhaps it's onboarding an agent, perhaps it's onboarding a buyer, a seller. What signals of that belief, of your stance, are in your process? How do people experience that? Through your language and your actions, and maybe even your boundaries, right? So when it comes to your system, here's another good question for you. How do I operationalize it so it's consistent and defensible if I were in open court? Your stance is what conviction is. I can explain what I believe. I can explain what I'm optimizing for. Conviction is not, I'm right, you're wrong. Conviction is principles and trade-offs. And in the case of private listings networks, we could say what we can do this really fairly and balanced. What is this optimizing for? Seller leverage, privacy, speed, control. Okay. Well, what does it risk? Market exposure, fairness, trust, maybe an appraisal narrative. And what kind of client is this appropriate for? What kind of client is it not appropriate for? So the signals that you give them, that's how they're going to feel your conviction really, really fast. And having conviction, no matter how you feel about the private listings network, that's a form of providing psychological safety. And when people feel that, they can relax. People will relax when they can tell that either number one, you're not guessing, but number two, they understand your position. They can feel that from you. That makes them relax. So here are some simple signals you can name. Have clear language. Do not do the word salad thing. Say it in a way that your kids can understand it. Say it simply. Have boundaries. Here's what I recommend. Here's what I don't recommend. Have clear decision points. If we want X, we do Y. If we want A, we do B. Have clear decision points. But here's where most agents collapse. They don't operationalize it. We gotta have a system. We gotta have a system. We have to make it repeatable and defensible. That might look like checklists, your own disclosure language. I don't mean like there's formalized disclosure language for all of us in our forms. We're not talking about doing the bare minimum. Everybody does that. What do you believe? What's your stance? What signals are you sending? Here's a chance for you to do that. Most often I'm doing it as I'm onboarding clients, and it is built into the process. So it becomes a documentation habit. One you don't even have to think about. You don't have to recreate it every client. It's just there. It's just your system. And those create really nice guardrails for you. So if your belief cannot survive a tough question, it's not a stance, it's more like a mood. Okay? So have your system prompts. Have system prompts. Have your disclosure language. Have those checklists, your documentation habits, your guardrails. Because the real differentiator is I think what almost nobody knows how to name, market, or operationalize, and that is, what kind of psychological safety do you provide to a customer? What kind of psychological safety do you provide to your agents? That might sound like fierce protection, patient teaching, decisive leadership. So ask yourself a question. What's your stance on private listings networks right now? Pro, anti, conditional, and more importantly, what principle is underneath your stance? I would love to know. Drop it in the comments. I do read them all of the time. Here's what I want to leave you with. The new era of real estate, this huge renovation that started years ago, it's going to continue. And the new era is not going to reward louder. It will reward the intuitive, self-aware professional who operates as a strategic guide. So use the tools, scale the operations, but don't automate your humanity. Because when it comes to someone else's home, conviction is care. You can read the full essay on Substack. Just search Renovating Real Estate on Substack. And if you want the operating system behind all of this, that is what Identity Ops does. You just search identityops.co or just go to McMaster.com. Until next week.